A dark and frozen forest spreads out into the night. There in the center of it are a series of dilapidated cabins. One of the cabins has a pale, flickering light emanating from within it. The light is coming from a greasy ball jar filled with cloudy animal fat, solid from the cold outside. Snow is pressing up against the wood of this cabin, and you can feel all of the pressure around you. The light coming from this greasy ball jar flickers. At the top of it, it's clear and golden and swirls as a wick burns on the top of it. As you awaken, you can smell it. The smell of cooking fat. Your stomach rumbles. You lie upon a rusted old cot. It's covered in animal furs and musty blankets. There's a silence that surrounds you, heavy and complete. An absence, a void. It weighs on your head as your eyes begin to clear and you adjust to the darkness around you. You see two figures in the room with you. Dark silhouettes that loom on just the edge of that animal fat candle's light. Your wounds, of which there are many, have been bandaged roughly. There are burns on your arms and legs. They're sore, but not intolerable. They itch. You have a cut over your right eye. Little sutures crisscross the left side of your face where the shrapnel had exploded and raked across your flesh. Polly, you're awake. You feel a warm, furry body move in the pile that is on top of you. And the warm, wet tongue of Spike finds its way across your face. The ragged-looking mutt, the dog, has a almost mohawk of spiked hair across the full of his back. Gray and black and brown, large, clear eyes that look at you. You feel as if Spike is whining. You feel the rumble in your chest, but you do not hear it.
I reach up slowly and I say, "Hey, bud." And then I realize that I can't hear what I have said. I'm going to try to look over at those two figures. I don't have time to freak out about that right now.
There's a rumble in your chest as you breathe, but you can't hear anything. And as you look over, the two figures that you see are dark silhouettes. They loom on the edges of this light. Their backs are turned to you. They aren't moving, they're just standing there. There's a door and a window that's been shuttered closed. It's rough. It looks like it was once painted green, the door. But it's so old now that all that you can see is bare wood and splinters. What do you do?
I wrap my arms around Spike and I'm going to try to sit up. I would say quietly, but I don't think I have a gauge of that at this point.
You sit up, and the two figures don't move. The candle continues to flicker. The light dances shadows around you.
They helped me. Hello?
You don't hear your voice, but you feel it.
Hello?
The figures don't move. And the door opens as a blast of cold air rushes across you. Snow piles in as a small figure trundles forward, closing the door behind them. The candle nearly blows out, but it remains strong once the door is closed. There's a bundled figure wrapped in rags and furs. You can't see any features at all, and this figure, no more than 4 feet tall, starts to walk towards you.
I don't... And just kind of holds her hands up in front of her. She's trying to speak, but she can't even hear herself, so he's trying to get that distance.
The bundled figure walks towards you and doesn't stop, but holds their hands up to show you that they mean no harm. Do you allow them to step forward?
I think I, as much as I can, scrabble back a bit, and I say, I can't.
As you do so, Spike leaps in front of you, growling, though you can't hear it. You see your dog protect you, warding off this stranger. The figure stops, lowers their hands, and looks down, and slowly removes their hood. You see a pale boy, no older than 12 or 13. Dirty face, watery blue eyes, and white hair. Emaciated, with a cross burnt onto his forehead. He looks at you and says something, but you don't hear it. You only see the lips move. But you think he might have said the word father.
I can't. I don't know what you're saying.
The boy looks at you, cups his own ears, and nods, and then points to you.
Tries to yell the word to hear it, doesn't work, and then eventually puts her hands on her own ears. Who are you?
The boy slowly mouths the word, and you watch closely. Jacob. Outside, in the cold, Babylon spreads out. Once a large, affluent Christian summer camp, now, like everything in this world, a ruined shell of what it once was. This is Babylon. There is a large, empty, concrete hole in the center of it that was once a luxury swimming pool. It's now a corral for livestock. And the dead move about everywhere. While many of the buildings have been destroyed, there are a few cabins that stand. Some of the larger buildings also are still standing. Swarms of Romeros everywhere in the snow. In the cold, they move much slower than they do in the summer months. And across this field of rotting corpses is a figure standing in an amphitheater. Stone seating that leads down into what was once a theatrical proscenium. That proscenium, though, has been shattered and broken. The figure is alone, though the dead swarm all around the outskirts of this place. He is dressed in rags, a torn, long coat and hood. He wears no shoes at all, and his hands are exposed up to his forearm, yet he doesn't seem to notice the cold as he lies over his meal. Lampwick, would you describe yourself?
Lampwick is about 6 feet tall. Was once fit with chiseled, handsome features. And I guess if you are looking closely, you can see the remnants of that. My skin is pale now. And maybe the only place where most of Lampwick remains is somewhere behind his eyes.
There is a man beneath you. A biker. Sort of overly muscled, shaved head and a beard. A glass eye that sort of has moved in the wrong direction and hasn't righted itself. But this large, powerful man just whimpers. This man is a part of a gang that you have spent a long time seeking out. And you found one after the other, but you believe there are still more out there. Survivors that long ago took someone very precious from you.
I very slowly lower myself to him.
Just kill me. Just do it. Do it, you son of a bitch!
I'm gonna start to caress his face. I reach out and I just kind of run my fingers around the outline of his face, gently, tenderly.
You son of a bitch.
You're okay, you're okay. It's okay.
Kill you still. You ain't gonna get away. You fucking dead prick.
I run my hand down his face, down to his neck. And I'm studying it, and I'm memorizing every nook and cranny, every wrinkle. I'm studying, imprinting it.
He wasn't the one. He was with them. He wears their symbol on the back of his vest, but he wasn't the one. And as you look at this face and you gently caress this terrified, ragged man, all you can see in your mind's eye is that burning Winnebago and the screams of your infant daughter inside.
I wrap my hands around his throat. Slowly start to squeeze. Say her name.
What the fuck are you? What name?
Say
I don't.
Isabella. Say it.
Isabella.
I squeeze with all my might.
There's a cracking noise. He convulses and then falls limp.
I bend down, I cradle him in my arms, and I caress his face. And I lower myself down, face to face. Moving to his ear. And I take a bite.
You open your mouth, and it doesn't stop there. Your jaw splits open like a strange flower, all the way down the center of your chest, and a mass of black tentacles begin wrapping around the corpse in front of you, just as his eyes open again with new undeath in them. But you do not stop, you feed. And the figure eventually stops moving as your shadowed form remains under the proscenium of Babylon. There have been many generosities to this community. You will find that there are new benefits given to your group here. We will explore them when we come back to the two of you. Snow is drifting down from the open air of the Pine Haven Shopping Center. Plastic tarps are daisy-chained together in a patchwork style, tethered one after the other across clotheslines that are stretched over to form some protection against the elements, but this is an open air area within your stronghold. It is near the central fountains, where many of your gardens still lie. One of the escalators was destroyed. Dial-Up, one of the foundlings under Achira's care, had thrown a number of homemade explosives, causing a great deal of damage. An outside group, in the guise of the shepherds, as silent sentinels, masked and armored, entered into your home. And these intruders were drawing the dead towards them using loud speakers, broadcasting horrid, twisted recordings, making as much noise as possible to create for your community a confluence that you could not escape from. But you persevered, despite the fact that there was betrayal within your ranks. Your community, a small group of 30 or 35 individuals given a certain point in the year, depending on who is out as scouting and who is currently stationed within your home ranks, has been strong. This group has been well trained. Faith is one of the most trusted leaders of this place. As a former member of the Citadel, she spent her entire life learning how to survive the apocalypse. You've never known anything other than fighting the dead and the living. And for the first time, you're not under Riggs. You're not under your commander's thumb. You have freedom here. Freedom to lead your own people the way that you want. And you've created a safe place for many of the lost children of the apocalypse. And Achira, who has spent many of her days out in the wild, scouting carefully and searching out lost things, has found that she herself wants and needs to be around people, and has begun to bring them back into these walls. This place was once an enormous mega mall, full of every consumer whim imaginable. It sprawls across many, many acres, and only a small fraction of this space has been truly claimed by you and your people. The rest of it has been blocked away. And when this attack occurred and the betrayal from within your walls happened, the dead were unleashed within Pine Haven. Thankfully, you and your survivors, all of you, worked together to formulate a plan and to protect your home. You've managed to do so. And while there are still some of the dead roaming through these long corridors, there are even larger piles of them, neutralized and pressed off into the sides of these far corridors. Your home is once again yours. The radio tower that was transmitting some unknown message from those that betrayed you has been destroyed, but there has been great cost. There have been injuries. Many of your people are dead. You know that at least 10 of them are gone. Thankfully though, it seems as though you've reached the morning light, and this battle is now concluded. But one of the costs might be higher than you know. Faith, you're standing in the corridor and you see Camilla looking back. Camilla has her 1-year-old son on her back in her armored papoose. Her gun is still trained ahead of her, but her eyesight has moved back to where Achira is lying on the ground. There's a dead Romero, one of your own, that had turned. Now neutralized, but Cammy and the children around her are looking. And before you see Achira, you instinctively know. Achira, would you describe yourself?
Achira is, well, used to be skinnier and scrappier. During her year in Pine Haven, she has bulked out and bulked up as she has been training and looking for foundlings to help join the community and protect the community. And she is my skin complexion, tall, almost 6 feet, but not quite. And has her hair has been bleached and dyed, and her natural curls have many different colors in them. The foundlings have taken her into hand and have done pinks and purples. Obviously not professionally done, but then there is no such thing after the apocalypse. She's not looking that great right now. Having survived let's say a detonation event that happened on the roof, and then horribly having damage done to her left hand, to then come back down to the fray of the Romeros in the battle, to then receive a bite from one of her turned foundlings, Tags, bitten on the lower forearm. And after dispatching him, she's laying there on the ground and she's just staring up at the ceiling. A lot has happened in a very short amount of time.
Faith, what do you do?
All right, everyone, just back up, give me some space. Let me talk to Achira. Don't do anything. Achira, don't do anything.
Cammy steps close to you.
Camilla, let me take care of this.
All right, but we need her alive.
I know. Just gotta trust me on this. Take the kids, get them back to the main area, get them out of here.
All right.
I'll take care of Achira.
I'll start to assess our losses and see what we can do about buttoning up these dead.
Yes, please do. I'm glad you're safe.
Cammy looks down, and not so long ago, Cammy was in a similar situation, and you can see on her face a lot of sympathy, a lot of empathy targeted towards Achira, but also a resolution, you know?
I grab her arm.
Mm-hmm.
I know you can talk to these kids better than I can, so I need you to do something for me. Don't talk about what happened here. We will not talk about this until we have to. I need you to trust me. I need you to trust me.
I'd like for you to make a command roll.
That's a 24/45.
There's a long pause, and then Cammy looks at you and nods, and moves off into the field and starts shouting orders to the other survivors. She has the two children next to her, and you can see that she stops eventually, leans down, and is whispering to the two of them. They both look back, and then she presses with her good hand both of their faces away from Achira. The two of you are alone.
I kneel down. Achira. How bad is it?
Oh, I don't want to look at it. You're welcome to look.
Okay. I inspect the area that was bitten.
It is past the armor, past any fabric or cloth that was there. It's further up on the arm, isn't it? All right. It's a large chunk of flesh that has been pulled away from it, and it's angry, and it's red and bleeding profusely.
I will do a simple medicine check to stop the blood and treat it like a normal wound first.
So be it. I will let you know that currently you have 14 competency points within the shared pool that you may draw from, should you need them.
Okay. Oof. That's 50 over 58, so still a success.
All right, so you do take a look at it, and it is, in fact, from your experience, bad enough to cause infection, certainly. But what do?
I hold her arm. Shira, I'm going to treat this, and I need you to just stay calm. It's going to be okay.
You know what, Faith? I've done a lot, you know? I've done a lot already. And really, what else is there to do? All we do is this every day, day in and day out. To what? Keep these walls up? Keep our morale up? This isn't any different than when it was when I would just be in the wild. There's no point to it, Faith.
How can you say that?
It just takes a piece of us. A piece each and every time until what? This is what's waiting for all of us. A bite.
Everything that we've accomplished since we got here, our lives were not like this before.
Do you have any idea how many people we lost today, Faith? Because I don't. I don't. But we always lose. Even when we think we win, we always lose. Until there's this. There's this, or there's black bile, or there's one of them calling you by your name and hunting you for months, or there's one that was your friend and is now one of them, and there's no point to it.
Achira, you know that. All of us here, we all should have died a long time ago. We are just fighting nail and tooth to stay alive for a couple more days, to experience life for a couple more seconds. And I know it's not been great for any of us. We've all lost people, and we probably will continue to until we die. But we made this place together to have some kind of life until we get to that day. And Achira, you've seen the papers.
We don't know.
We don't know, but if there's a chance, why can't we try to just leave your arm how it is and see what happens? If it was me, if this was a normal injury, I got bit, yeah, fucking shoot me. It's fine, but it's you. You're different.
I didn't choose to be.
It doesn't matter. We don't have to choose
Getting
shit.
tested on as a kid. I had no choice.
I know.
I don't want this. You realize that, right? I know we talked about experimenting with seeing if what the paper said were true, but this could be a big problem. I could be a big problem for this place if this gets out. If I don't turn, it's a problem. How fucked is that?
It's not going to be a problem. If you don't turn, you get to live. And if anybody here has a fucking problem with it, we will deal with them, or we will just fucking leave. We've done it before. If you have a chance to live, you are going to take it, Achira. Now, I think it's worth a shot. And I promise I will shoot you with glee if you start to turn.
You know, that's something that I promised him. I promised him that I'd take him out if there wasn't enough of him left in there, and I didn't. And whatever Lampwick became, he's out there. It is out there doing God knows what else, and that's on me.
You couldn't have controlled that situation. We all would have died if we stayed.
If I turn, you take me out. Once upon a time, you would have wanted to do that whether I was bit or not.
Some days I still want to, but yeah. Fine. Of course. If you start to turn, I shoot.
And if I don't, Faith and other people find out,
then we deal with it. What's the worst that could happen?
I really wish you'd stop saying that.
The things that we thought were the worst things to happen of us keep happening over and over. And you're right, it does suck. It's not a great way to live, but this is our life. This is all we have to live for. You have your 20 million foundlings that you keep finding more of for some reason. I've kind of got this place sort of under control. We kind of have each other, but bad things are going to keep happening. But we have to live to see them, to get through them.
Get through another day, right?
Yeah.
Just get through another day.
All right, just let me wrap this up. We're just going to tell people about the general injury. Not that you got bit. Hopefully those kids can keep their mouths shut. And we'll talk to Camilla later.
All right. We'll need to get some stuff from medical, because just from the way that it feels, I'm not going to look at it, but just from the way that my entire left side feels, I'm going to need something.
Okay. And I want to try to wrap it up best as I can, cover it with my jacket, and see if we can make our way to where there's medical supplies.
So I see you kind of helping Achira up, and the two of you standing there in this shattered old corridor. There are the broken overhangs from all of the specific shops surrounding you, and the peeled mauve paint that has been ripped down almost to old rotten concrete. There are dead vines everywhere as nature has really broken back through in many places here, but everything's so cold and covered in ice, and there's a few fires that have been lit in large steel drums throughout the space, and some of them were knocked over in the fight. And you see your community, to their credit, together, cleaning this all up, removing the bodies, dragging both their own fallen and those that had attacked you, and placing them into a central area near the gardens. You see others over by the entrance, the main entrance to the north side of the lot, the double doors that lead outward. And there's only the one escalator that's still standing. So if the two of you wish to move through this crowd unseen, or to be careful about how obvious you are in the injuries that Achira is carrying, I'm going to need stealth rolls from both of you. However, because of the situation, I'm going to add 2 black dice of difficulty to that roll. Do you have anything that could mitigate that?
Well, I want to use my concealment ability. Excel at moving while remaining unseen.
Given that, I'll reduce your difficulty dice by 1. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
So you'll roll with 1 additional black die, and Faith, you'll roll with 2.
Okay. Woof. For my stealth, that is 34 over 65. So just to give you success with these guys.
What is 77 over my stealth is 50, so that's 2.
2 degrees of failure.
Yeah.
And Faith, I'm sorry, how many degrees of success or failure did you have?
3 degrees of success.
3 degrees of success. That actually negates the 2 degrees of failure that Achira has rolled, meaning you have 1 degree of success collectively. Do you wish to move on that 1 degree of success alone, or would you like to use some competency to improve your chances of succeeding?
Putting some competency
I
in.
feel like this is a group effort. We can take from
Yeah.
the group pool on this one.
Yeah.
Let's take 2 maybe.
Yeah, let's make it that makes 3 degrees of success
Yeah.
for it.
And you're taking this from the group pool, not using your personal
Yes.
competency.
Yeah.
Very well. You both move up the escalator without any incident. I think some people with 3 degrees of success might just notice you, but they don't think anything of it. You're able to play this off, and it does look like you're just assessing the damage. Certainly not that Achira has been grievously wounded in this attack. Even Camilla seems to be unaware of your movement, and you see others sort of gathering around. And you notice that when you're up a little higher on the 2nd floor, you notice 2 things. First of all, the radio shack, the rubble has been dug out, but no one is digging any longer. The fire has been put out, but everyone seems to have left this area. The other thing that you notice is that in the corridor off further down, DT and Sugar are surrounded by some of the other survivors. Many of your foundlings, Achira, are with them, and they're all patting and touching Sugar almost curiously, not with malice or anger, and you can see that everything that Sugar did to assist seems to have endeared that Romero to some of your group. But even from here, Faith, you especially see this. There's an equally large group, guns still in their hands, standing defensively off to one side, staring back at that strange foundling and her dead sister. Where do you go?
Well, it's a mall. I'm sure there is a.
You have
Pharmacy.
medical, well, there's no pharmacy any longer, my
I
friend.
mean, like,
However, there is,
the place where.
yeah, there's a medical bay
Medical
that you
bay.
have
Okay.
most likely built together as a community. And it's on the 2nd floor, past the radio shack, further back. I think you do have a few individuals that are pretty good at first aid. I don't think you have any official doctors, though. I think probably, Faith, you and Polly were the 2 that were the most adept, and you've shared your training with others. So while a lot of people within your community can do a little bit of good, very few of them can do anything serious. Most of the bad injuries have required you to tap into aid from outside forces that have occurred within this past year.
I think the 2 of us should take care of this. I don't think we should involve anybody else.
Yeah, just go on ahead for like 2 seconds. I just want to take care of this group real quick.
And I think we're both agreed that Riggs will never, no,
He can't.
Riggs Citadel, never, ever.
I mean, Achira, you know we have to assume someone in there knew. But no, we won't tell him.
Achira's gonna move ahead into the medical bay.
I'm gonna quickly go over to that group around DT and Sugar.
You make your way back downstairs. Achira, you find a seat on the cot, and we'll return to the 2 of you. The boy looks at you, Polly. Tries to raise his hands one more time and step closer to you.
I'll let him this time. It's kind of pulled Spike closer to me.
The dog protectively still growls. You can feel like the motor roaring through your chest as you hug close to this ragged dog. But your eyes meet this pale, strange boy's, And he looks at you, and he gets closer to you, and in the candlelight now you can see his face more clearly. He says something, but you can't hear him. You watch his mouth, and then you watch it again as he repeats it. And then you begin to understand. You were her. Father saved you.
I don't know where I am.
The boy raises a finger up.
Tries to whisper. I don't know who that is.
You think he says you will be, but then you realize he said you will see.
I raise a hand and point to the cross on his head. Do I recognize that?
He instinctively touches the scar on his forehead and looks at you, and then nods. It certainly seems like something the shepherds would do.
No. And Polly tries to stumble to her feet and push past him, not knowing what's outside.
Lampwick. You hear the whispers of a wind. The child is awake.
I move away from the man that's on the ground.
The tentacles retract back into your chest, and your face takes on a semblance of humanity again.
And I would have been careful with whatever I've taken from him, because I have others to feed. And I start to deliberately make my way over to the cabin with the light. And as I pass any of the dead, I make eye contact with every single one. And any that are near me, I will touch. I touch their face. I touch their shoulders. Every single one.
As you move past, many of them are standing just staring off into the distance, but when your hand presses against their flesh, their eyes immediately move with new life. Their bodies brush aside the snow that has fallen on them, and as you walk past them, they begin going back to the place that you came from. You've left a meal for them, haven't you?
I sure have.
And the swarm begins to move down and find the corpse. And you walk past everything that has been built here. And some of your people are tending to the pens of livestock, both human and animal. And you move even further down through your people, awakening them and allowing them to feed. As you come upon the cabin, and before you get to the door, you hear her voice. At first, a shout and then a whisper. do?
I hear it still within the cabin. Or is it outside the cabin at this point?
It's inside the cabin.
I continue to approach the cabin door.
Polly, what do you do? As the boy
I-
stands in front of you.
Am trying to push past Jacob to get to the door to run out.
Make a dodge check.
Sure.
I'm going to give you 1 black die of difficulty
That makes
because
a
you are
whole lot of
currently-
sense.
You have a flesh wound,
Yeah.
so everything's a little more difficult for you right now.
Yeah, and that was an 85, 87, and my dodge is 32. So, how many is that? 4 or 5 degrees of failure?
You're at, I believe, 5 degrees of failure, which is a catastrophic failure. If you would like, you can use either some of the competency that has been acquired within the group pool, of which there is currently 16,
Damn.
or, no, don't worry, they've been giving risk as well.
Great. Thank you.
However, you may use the competency there or your own competency to try to mitigate this. If you don't, with 5, it's going to be bad.
Right. It's early on in the game. I want to just mitigate this from catastrophic, so I am going to use 1 of my own and 2 of the groups to make it 2 failures.
All right. So that brings us down to 14 in the group competency pool. And you've used some of your own as well.
Yes.
So it's still a failure, but you don't fall forward completely. You almost lose your legs, and you realize you don't know how long you've been unconscious. And you feel as if you haven't stood in a very long time. Your legs have a weakness to them. You feel a hand catch you, but it's not Jacob. It's one of the silhouettes standing outside the light. And you look down, and you see a rotten hand holding your arm.
Scream and try to push it away.
You push the figure away, it flings against the wall, and it turns as it does so, and you see a familiar face. Your mind reels. You see the bright blue of her dyed hair. Zippy is there, standing in front of you, eyes pale and watery, empty. The lower part of her jaw, the flesh has rotted away, and you see bone, but the rest of the emaciated form is covered in black, heavy veins that work across her flesh. Her clothing is sodden and ruined, but there is still the spark of color and life that you remember in your friend and sister.
Zippy?
The door opens. Describe yourself.
You see a familiar face. You see who you met back at the stadium, and who you had perhaps seen weeks, months before that in the forest. 6 feet tall, what remains of my skin and my hair is an echo, I guess, of what you saw.
He doesn't look like a Romero. Not quite. There's still a lot of Lampwick there, but it's pale, filtered, shallow, starving. There's a darkness to the eyes, and maybe a savageness.
I scrabble back, falling onto the floor against the opposite wall.
Shh. Wait. No. There's no need to be afraid. You know me.
I can't hear you.
I look to Jacob.
I believe, Father, she is deaf. The explosion that you pulled her from may have done great damage to her. If you speak to her carefully, though, she understands. You just must take your time and make sure she can see your face.
My hands are up.
That's my friend.
Yes. I brought her here to keep her safe. Come with me. Come. And I will hold my hand out. Come. Let's talk.
Fuck. And just takes his hand.
You're safe. You're safe. And I'm gonna lead her to where there's the most light in the room.
If you would like, Lampwick, you're very careful. Many of your family don't require light, but there are candles that have been made. You could have more light brought in.
I asked Jacob. We need more light.
The pale boy pulls his hood up and then steps back out into the snow, and you pull her into the close proximity of that animal fat candle that's burning. And you can both see each other much more clearly. Spike is not happy and is growling and trying to grab onto your pant leg and pull you back towards the cot, away from not only Lampwick but the other two figures in the room.
I sit down. I gesture for you to share the floor with me.
I'll sit. Wrap my arms around Spike again.
I completely ignore the growling of the dog for now. Are you hurt anywhere else?
I think that one takes a few. No?
You need to eat. Not that. We have food for you. Soon.
I tried to kill you.
Yes, you did. And I'm here. And I'm still here. And I've been watching you, and I've been watching my friends from afar. And you needed help, so I came.
About how much of that do I get, Knox?
I'm going to leave it up to you to interpret that as you like. wouldn't say all of it, but how do you feel? What does Polly understand? You can see his mouth, and there's plenty of light. It isn't perfect, but maybe you have 80% of that.
Can I determine to what extent she's missing or struggling? I know she would be struggling if she can't hear. But I'm curious if I notice it, or if I don't, I'm gonna proceed as I have been.
I'd like for you to roll sense motive. No.
No.
How many degrees of failure is that?
2.
Okay.
So I am gonna use some competency points, and I'm gonna use one of mine, and I'll use 2 from the pool to make this one success.
All right, that takes us down to 14 within the current pool. And so that makes it 1 degree of success, is that correct?
Yes.
Did I get that right? Okay, so with 1 degree of success, you're not exactly sure. You know that she's clearly struggling. You know that there are definitely words that are not being understood here, and that this is very new and very frightening. Even though she's frightened by many things that have occurred in the past couple of minutes, this seems to be devastating.
I'm going to turn to Zippy, and I'm going to say, please tell Jacob that I need something to write with and something to write on, to the best of your abilities.
Zippy walks, and you didn't see what he said, Polly, but it looked like Lampwick asked a question, and Zippy listened, and then responded in noises you couldn't hear, but then walked out the door.
And as Zippy is walking out, I'm going to stop Zippy one last time. Oh, Zippy, and please make sure to come back.
Although you do not hear that.
I turn to Polly and I say very slowly, can you read?
No.
Not a little?
No.
Then this will take some time for us. And I'm going to let and hope that what I show covers more ground than what little I can say. And I stand up and I offer my hand and I gesture gently.
A little easier this time.
And I'm going to help her up. And I'm going to lead her out, and I'm going to show her what home is like.
The two of you step out of the cabin into Babylon. Everything that I've described, you see now. There are lights that are being lit in your honor. Bonfires ignite throughout the camp. But with the exception of this small boy, the only living people that you see surrounded by the dead.
I don't think we get much more than about 20 paces before both the sight of that and the fact that I can't hear if something is coming up behind me and I'm in an open space, I just stopped dead.
I stop with you.
Spike is close to you. You feel the warmth of his fur against your leg, and as the two of you stand there, you see two figures trundling through the snow towards you out of a mass in front from another building. The small figure wrapped in furs of Jacob and Zippy, exposed to the elements but unaware of them. The two figures come towards you, and there is a small wooden box filled with jars of candles. There is a small cloth-wrapped bundle that, Lampwick, you can immediately smell dried meats within. And there is a large leather coat. It has fur lining the interior and across the top. It's crudely stitched. And there's a blood-soaked pair of angel wings on the back with a symbol.
I want to leave. I want out of here.
Wait.
I don't know.
Stay with me. I'm gonna take the coat. And I'm gonna offer it to you.
I don't want anything from you. You have people in cages.
No, listen, please. Let's talk. Those people are bad. Bad people. We are not bad. We're the same. Give me a chance. Please.
Polly takes the coat. Like Achira gave you a chance, but puts it on.
And that is where we're going to take a break. Before we begin, allow me to say that I spend 100 risk. Faith, you make your way back down the escalator, leaving Achira in the medical bay. There are fires that have been lit in some of these steel drums that are spread out within the confines of the open alcove that makes up the gardens of your community. There are a series of large fountains, and the water that was once in them has been supplanted with dirt and plant growth that has been covered over to protect it against the snow. There's snow everywhere. There are these colorful tarps hanging above you that help to block some of the elements from you and your people. There's a large clutch of ragged survivors that are armed and standing around a group of foundlings. These feral children of the apocalypse are brightly colored themselves. They have dyed their own hair. They have braided themselves and shaved their heads and given each other tattoos and piercings. And they are very reminiscent of a time that you never knew. But from the select VHS tapes that you've watched, you know that these are the echoes of the time frame before the fall. As you approach, there is a newcomer, Her name is DT. She's wearing darker clothing than most and has a series of striped gloves on and other things that have marked her as an outsider, dressed much differently than these other foundlings. She has sort of a dark and distant look. Her sister, as she refers to her, is a Romero. She's dead. You allowed her to bring this Romero in under some very strict conditions, and during the attack, she's proven herself to be an asset, perhaps. The lower half of her jaw has been removed. Her tongue hangs out from the gash that lives now underneath the upper part of her mouth as her jagged teeth clatter back and forth with large, dead eyes. Much of the hair is gone from her, but she has a large bow and tattered cloth that has been wrapped and tied around her in a ragged, old, filthy dress. She's wearing baby doll shoes and stands there in the middle of this group of survivors that you know, your people. Many of them are clearly worried. None of them, to their credit, under your orders, have caused any harm to either DT or her sister Sugar. But as you approach, the whispering stops. What do you do?
I walk over to DT. I look around at the group. DT, I heard that you and your sister were able to help us during this fight.
We did. We came for things, and Achira is going to give us stuff. I want a coat.
I want you to tell this group here. What did you do to help?
Well, I thought I pushed the dead away with my sister so that they wouldn't hurt your people.
That's good. I turn to the people of the community who are not looking so happy.
There's 5 or 6 of them that are sort of gathered off to one side.
I know this is strange. I know that these Romeros are the ones we fight, the reason that we're locked inside a building. But today this one helped. Things keep changing in our world. But if someone's going to make a positive impact for our community, I think that's an okay reason.
It's a fucking corpse! A man named Saget shouts out, standing next to Wendy, Chance, and another couple of armed members of your community. What do you do?
Speak your mind.
I said it's a corpse. I can't risk any of us getting bit.
It can't bite. Look at its face.
Wendy speaks up. She's an older lady. She has tightly pulled back white hair. She's survived the fall, and you know that she is respected. She has keen eyes, you know, and she kind of looks around at the others. She's holding a spear that's a military bayonet that's been strapped to a homemade pole that's wrapped in leather. She's pretty dirty because she's always out foraging in the wild, but she looks to you. I think I understand, even though Saget here couldn't talk his way out of a paper bag. We think it's dangerous, right? There's infection. Even if this Romero can't bite, she could spread disease. Do you intend to allow them to stay?
I think today they helped, but I can see that this could be a problem. DT, do you and your sister want to stay, or do you want your goods and want to go?
Oh, we'll just go. We just want the things that were promised, and then we'll leave.
Fine. No one's keeping you here. I turn to the others. We will never imprison or keep anyone here that does not want to stay in our community. But if there's a problem with people who want to stay here, you'll fight it out yourselves. I'm not taking away anyone's choice. That's not how we live here. DT, I'll send Achira to you when she's feeling a little better and you guys can pick out a jacket. But if you don't mind, just try to stay low. Maybe, I don't know, hang out in the old Claire's. It's empty now.
The other foundlings that have been trained by Achira, Bebe, Blossom, and TV all kind of look to you, and Blossom speaks up. She's got, wild red hair, and she looks feral, but she has a ruined tutu on with rainbow suspenders, and she looks at you. We'll we can take her for now and keep her away from the others if you want, Juniper.
It's Faith, but yes, it's fine.
So be it. Blossom follows off and takes both DT and her sister away. And they go further down into the corridor and disappear. The others seem disjointed, disquieted by what's happened. And you don't think it's because of the Romero. Faith, you think it's because you've been attacked. And there was the explosion at the Radio Shack. And when you look around, you also notice that Arlo isn't here. And you're missing a handful of others. And you don't see their bodies.
Christ, it's always something.
For now, I'm going to assume that Camilla's doing a good job keeping the Ramirez that need to be kept out to the side. I'm going to go back up to Achira to help her with her wound.
All right, so you start moving back up. Achira, what are you doing in the medical bay? Are you treating this wound yourself, or are you waiting for someone else to help you?
Treating this wound myself. I'm
Okay.
gonna utilize survival points and first aid rolls. And worst case scenario, I have a lighter.
Mm-hmm. Faith is gone for a while. And I think that's going to leave you time to take a couple of attempts here. So let's start with a first aid roll and see how you do.
All right, with my first aid, I get to take 6 away, so I got a 40, and my first aid is a 43, so 1 degree of success.
All right, would you like to just ride that out on 1 degree of success, or would you like to use competency?
I'd like to utilize survival points, if possible, with
Not
this.
with a pool of competency available to you. I won't allow you to convert those.
Okay. All right, so I'll utilize some competency. I want that to go up to at least 4 degrees. So since I have 1 degree, we've got 14 in the bank. I'll use 2 of my own.
Right. You currently have, unless I'm mistaken, you have 17 available in the communal pool.
I'll use 1 of my own and 2 of the communities.
It's the trend today.
To make it 4 degrees of success.
Okay. So with 4 degrees of success, you manage to clean, sterilize, and deal with the majority of your wound. You stitch a few areas closed, and you are working on that when Faith arrives. I will say that despite this, the work is rough. You've done the best that you can with one hand, working on yourself. Certainly, you're going to want somebody else to tend to this later on, but you've mitigated any sort of immediate need for preventing any sort of blood loss or aggravated injury based on your wound.
Can I take stuff for infection?
You can. Do you have anything in your current stock of supplies or the stock of supplies that are available for the community?
I don't know. I would want medicine.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
All right. So, Faith, you step back into the medical bay, and I'm going to say that you start pouring through the resources that your group has scavenged. Nothing here was originally found here. I feel like you had your people, and sometimes Achira, out in the wilderness gathering what they can and bringing it back. Much of the resources that are available to you have been gathered over like a hard-earned period of time over this past year, as you know, resources are very hard to come by. Certainly anything from the pre-fall era. Much of what is made now is only made in the larger communities. Homemade medicine and all of that, both you and the others who were part of the Ender's Line, you were able to rely on some of that when you were able to be active in trading amongst other groups. But since you've become stationary, living within the stronghold, it's become more important that things are brought back in and very carefully rationed. So there are a series of boxes and there are a series of homemade antibiotics that have been stored, but you know that they're a very finite sum. So I think you can give Achira antibiotics that can be used for the next week, but I think that would probably deplete your stock.
All right, Achira, you can use these, I guess. We need to restock here soon. It's not looking good.
Well, we just got that full cache from the Citadel, but I can send my foundlings out for more. And in fact, I'm thinking I want to go back out again myself.
Before long, we might all be out on the street again, so might as well use it while we have it.
The medicine that you have from the Citadel are all painkillers. You are welcome to use painkillers if you would like.
I'm all right. Well, I guess half of one. She doesn't take pain very well, but she also doesn't like her senses being dulled. But the antibiotics she'll definitely take.
All right.
So, your the DT and the what was this name? Sugar. They want to get on their way out. They're gonna, I guess, grab a jacket and go.
Yeah. I had a jacket that I was making for Polly, but it turned out that she didn't really need it. She had her own jacket, so that she preferred to
This place is
wear.
awash in jackets.
So I was gonna give DT that jacket instead.
How's your arm doing?
I'm looking forward to when it's only stiff and not stiff and hurting and feels like it's on fire.
Okay. You're gonna have to let me check it every day and ask you about it every day. You listen, he said, if you start turning, I gotta kill you, so I gotta check.
All right, well then you want to go out with me then?
Not really into it, so.
No. Oh, Faith. Do you want to go outside
Oh,
with
yeah.
me then? I
Oh.
can't.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that your administration and stuff now maybe don't remember what it's like in the field anymore. Maybe actually maybe actually I shouldn't take you with me. Just be like drag on my resources.
I would love nothing more than to get the hell out of these walls, but there's some shit is afoot right now. I mean, we just got attacked. There's the holes everywhere. We're missing a ton of people that I think defected.
Wait,
Listen,
Arlo?
Arlo's gone.
I knew I should have shot him the second time he shocked me with electricity. I knew he did it on purpose.
Yeah, Arlo's gone. I don't know that anyone found anything in the Radio Shack area. There's no one's searching back there anymore, so I don't know if we should go over and check it out ourselves. But I mean,
People are trying to patch holes. No, the thing of it is that we have to go out because someone came here for us, and we have to figure out who the hell this community is and why, in particular, did they try to dress themselves up as the shepherds. We can't just sit here, repatch our walls, and wait for the next attack. That's not how it works. We've got to get out there.
Well, certainly all of us don't have to leave. I think we should keep most of the group who prefers to be stationary here to help patch things up, and we can take a field team out and do some recon. We're missing people. We don't know who that tower is transmitting to. We have a lot of unanswered questions, and I don't think this place is ever going to be really secure until we find who attacked. So yeah, you're right. I'm in it.
Did that hurt?
A little bit.
Yeah. Kind of saw that once there.
And we still haven't found Polly. I know there was...
What? Polly's not here?
I didn't see her around.
Where? Did anybody see her leave that hallway?
I didn't have time to ask anybody, so... If we didn't see her...
Did anybody see Dial-Up or Spike?
We should start asking some questions. I'm not sure. We're missing a lot of people.
Achira's gonna get up, and it's not a fun standing up. I'm gonna go get DT what I promised her.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna go start looking for Polly. You're welcome to join, or if you want to help me by asking people.
Yeah. I don't know that we have to, like, ask every single person, but maybe I would go down to talk to the other leaders of the group to try to get sort of who's here, who's missing, while we're, I guess, doing your errands as well.
Yeah. First things first. I gotta get that jacket to DT. Who knows? Maybe they'll go out with me. Goodness, not like that. Maybe they'll go searching with me.
We do need a team.
Sugar was helpful in that fight.
Standing in the doorway, Camilla taps her sword arm against the metal frame of the doorway. You mind if I come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, Cammy, coming in.
She steps in and she unbuckles the heavy, like, seatbelt buckles that hold the metal canopy to her back, and she sets it down. She opens it up with a lock and pulls out the 1-year-old boy, and he's sleeping peacefully as she kind of pulls him into her arms, one of them being a sharpened machete knife, and just sort of coddles him and rocks him as she sort of looks at you, pissed off, as she looks down at your arm.
There's more. Cammy, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was. Not enough.
I'm not an idiot, so let's start that conversation again and pretend like you're not going to lie to me. She just rocks her child in front of you, peacefully sitting across from you. Take 2.
Cammy, It... Fuck.
I was afraid too. I didn't want to lose my arm. But you all helped me. And if I wasn't alive at that point, I would have lost everything. And she looks down at her son and then back to you. I owe you everything. Juniper, I'm loyal. I'm not their soldier, but I'm yours. So stop fucking with me.
Cammy, Faith and I made a really good decision. This wasn't like what happened with you. With you, it was down to the bone. It was only a matter of time.
Achira, this is ridiculous.
We can't.
Cammy, yes, you do owe us everything. So if you want the truth, we'll give it to you. But it's a secret you have to keep. We're part of the original group. We have to stick together.
Is this secret going to cause us harm? Is it going to hurt my boy?
Potentially.
It's Achira's secret.
Well, then I want to know.
Nobody else can know. And I'm not even sure.
Who the fuck am I going to tell? I don't like half of these assholes.
You can't tell your kids.
They're asking questions, but I feel like I can lie to them on this.
You can tell them that it wasn't as bad as it looked. You could tell them I had armor in the way or something like that. You can tell them anything because basically, Cammy, I was tested on previously before all of this, and no one cares about foster kids, right? Until one of the things that they try out on those foster kids actually ends up working. Supposedly, I won't turn from a zombie bite.
How do you know that?
I was experimented on as a kid, and then I was captured during the apocalypse and experimented on again. And Lampwick, while he was still Lampwick, risked his life to get us those documents, those papers, and we pored over it. But of course, the only way to really see if it was true was to get bit, and I wasn't about to do that until it happened today. So we're going to wait it out. We're going to see what happens. And if I don't turn, it's a problem if other people find out about it. For our community, for us, for Rhodes. And if I do turn, Faith has already volunteered to be the first one to take me out.
Well, if she doesn't, I will. I need to know. I need to know that this is going to work. How long? How long do we keep an eye on you? 3 days?
A week.
All right. I'm gonna get Wendy to watch over Rhodes. And I'm not leaving your side.
I plan on going out.
You can't do that.
We have to find out who did this, and we can't wait a week for that, and I won't.
Then I'll go out.
You're not going by yourself.
If you're out there on your own and you change, if you lose yourself,
then I won't come back and it won't matter. Problem solved.
All right, first
well, look who's talking like no one here gives a shit about her. We will care. You will be gone. Lost.
What not sending her out alone. We need a team to go out to figure out what happened, who attacked us. It's not just a selfish thing for her to want to go out and wander around the woods by herself, but we need to find out who came in here, where all of the people from, where the hell is Arlo, where is that whole group of techies?
Where Polly is. Polly's missing.
That's a whole other story.
We're not
The
gonna
wildlings are blocking off Southgate right now, making sure that the barriers are back up. Someone definitely let those Romeros in here. That was no accident. This was part of the attack. And then you do have at least 5 people gone. We've got names. You know Arlo. Some of the others, they were all tight with Declan. And apparently, everybody stopped digging as soon as things got out of hand down the stairs. So we have no idea what was left in the rubble of that radio shack. As far as Polly goes, she's smart. She'll come back. You gotta be patient. What's it been? 3 hours? Dial up, I don't trust so much. Dial up leaves for weeks at a time. Polly will come back sooner rather than later.
It doesn't feel right. When we left Polly, she promised 10 minutes she'd come and find us.
Well, weren't you on the roof at that point?
Yes.
You're not on the roof now. Have you looked up there?
No, Cammy.
Look,
I'm gonna kill Arlo when I see him. I just...
Not if I find him first.
Right?
everyone kill who you want. This is great. Cammy, if you can, let's just all focus up and concentrate on refortifying this area. We will, whoever it is, somebody will need to leave and do some research, and I think we should go. But I definitely want to go and check out what happened to Declan's body, if it's really there. That whole thing still doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, people are asking questions. You know, Arlo was saying a lot of stuff, dividing people before all this went down. You've got an issue, potentially an issue of leadership. Just because people are doing what we ask right now doesn't mean that they're going to 2 days from now, 3 days from now, a month from now.
Yeah, it's always the way.
You're gonna have to stay here to reassert leadership. And it's best for me to go.
But I'm coming with you.
You can come with me. Just...
Someone who knows has to be aware and watching you, just in case.
That's true.
Faith, I need you to make sure Rhodes is safe. I trust Wendy, but anything goes down, just keep him safe.
Sure, as much as amiable.
And I hate to say this, but this group of whoever they are, they could have chosen any community. They could have chosen Citadel, and we wouldn't have looked twice, and then we would have basically tried to take our war to Citadel. Wouldn't that have been better for them? Why would they choose the Shepherds? Out of all of the communities, the Shepherds.
I don't know. Not everyone here even knows about them. Just kind of a handful of us who came from the original group of us, really.
We haven't really heard anything from the Shepherds lately, have we?
No. So,
That might be
Rumors,
something.
you've heard rumors of missionaries walking on the roadsides. You've heard stories of people dressed in black, completely clean, stalking through the dead without being stopped or harmed. But just rumors. Since the Battle of Three Rivers, you've not seen or heard their song.
Well, I'm not gonna figure out what's going on standing around here.
I thought exactly.
I'm gonna head down to the old, was it a Suncoast or Radio Shack, and figure out what happened down there.
I'd like for you to make a search check, please. I'm not going to give you any dice of difficulty, but I do want you to roll 2 blue speed dice. And then, Achira, what are you doing?
Achira is going to her hidey hole, which is in the old Harley Davidson store.
Okay. So first floor.
Yeah, first floor. To go get the jacket that she had made for Polly that she's given to.
Yeah, I'll say that there were probably a few leather jackets that were left behind that were, even from the days when Pinehaven was an actual mall. Maybe there was just a few that were in a far back room, buried under some boxes, and you managed to salvage those. You were keeping them as spares, but you find one that's a little too small for you anyway.
Achira had reworked the leather and has spent time resizing it down to smaller. So there was some effort that went into this.
Okay, so it's a bit of a custom rebuild of that jacket. You find it in your collection of stuff, and I think there's a lot of pieces of things of your past and kind of things that you've carried with you, and little mementos of your time with the Ender's Line and your weapons, because I feel like you probably have a small arsenal that you don't always carry with you, but things that you have in case you lose a gun or replenish. Unfortunately, not very much ammo. That seems to be the only issue. Faith was given some stuff from the Citadel.
I had picked up ammo during the fight from the, so I still had that on me.
From what you've collected from your attackers, you do have a few extra clips and the assault rifles. So
when Achira is taking the jacket, there's also a bunch of patches that have yet to be sewed on, and you see the old school Polly Pocket. There was a patch that was going to be put on the jacket.
Yeah,
and
you found the actual...
a bunch of 90s things that would have been specific to a certain person that she was going to give it to, and Achira looks at it for a second and then brushes the to be attached patches back into the box and takes the jacket.
Faith, how did you do on your search roll?
I got 3 degrees of success. My speed was 5.
Okay. So the fires were put out pretty quickly, and the rubble wasn't nearly as bad as it looked at first. Because of the drop ceiling and a lot of the other flimsy elements in the construction of this section, it's a bigger mess than it really should have been, but it wasn't all that dangerous. No concrete structures or large pieces. You find the metal cabinet in the center, and it is heavily blasted on one side, and on the other side you see an enormous smear of blood. And underneath it, there's something wedged tightly against the concrete floor.
Declan, do you hear, bud? I just kind of start to try to move some debris away.
You move through the ash, and you start moving towards the debris. You push burnt pieces of ceiling off to one side. You see a severed hand. Burnt, but looks like it might have been Declan's. You can't think of who else it would belong to.
Does it look like the hand was cut or blown off?
It's wedged under the heavy metal cabinet. It's broken, and it looks like it was cut off.
I want to see if I can move that heavy slab to see if I can find the rest of the body or not.
Go ahead and make for me a brawl roll.
It's a 59 over 36. So that's 2 degrees of failure. I'm going to go ahead and use 3 degrees of my own competency to make that a degree of success.
You're using 3 of your own competency points. How many do you have remaining?
4 left.
All right. With that, you've just lessened it to
1 degree of success.
So just a single degree of success is what we flipped over to. You do not move the cabinet, but you do hear it kind of groan, and the entire thing collapses. And it seems to be very flat against the floor. It doesn't seem like there's anything else underneath it. You could continue to dig here, but I'll leave that to you.
So, now Declan, how mysterious. Alright, I leave the area. This is, to me, finished.
All right, you leave, and we'll come back to the 2 of you and the rest of Pine Haven in just a few moments. Weeks later, in Babylon, the 2 of you are standing where you were. You were looking around at this place for the first time. You have a coat. You're warm. Spike is protectively guarding you as Lampwick stands in front of you. Lights are being lit in bonfires across Babylon as the encampment welcomes you.
I offer to help. Is the coat on you?
Mm-hmm.
Then I kind of grab it and just sort of like tuck it a little bit closed, just a little bit more. You're safe. And I'm actually going to bend down and acknowledge Spike. It's okay.
If you would like to try and calm the dog, I'll allow you to make a roll, calm other. However, due to the nature of what you are, I'm going to add 2 black dice.
Yes. That is
5 total.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a.
That is 7.
Oh, he's back.
That's right. So I still have Weedle active. Then that is going to be that's going to take it up to 5 plus.
So bullshit Jesus returns. You immediately calm the dog. As it growls at you, it stops. It looks at you warily, carefully, sniffs you, and then looks back to you as if asking permission to not be afraid.
I think I want to see what happens here. So I give Spike a nod and jerk towards Lampwick.
Spike steps forward in the snow and sniffs your hand, Lampwick.
And I leave it there, letting it take as long as it needs.
The hackles on the back of the shaggy dog's mane that spikes across the back of its spine lower a little bit. The ears relax, and while it doesn't accept you or lick you or show you affection, it steps back and just sits quietly at Polly's feet between the 2 of you and looks at you with dark eyes. Not angry, but cautiously.
So I hold there and I just wait, and I just look at the dog with my hand out and wait and wait.
How long will you wait?
Until something else grabs my attention.
Polly, it's strange. It's like he isn't there anymore. Like he's somewhere else. What do you do?
After about a minute of this, I physically step in between Lampwick and Spike.
Your attention is broken.
I need your help. I need your help.
What are you?
I'm a friend. Zippy needs your help. And I gesture all around. We need you. Please help us.
They're dead. Zippy is dead.
Come. Something always remains. You have to see.
Fucking truths.
Come.
Fine. And I will follow Lampwick.
Where do you go, Lampwick?
I want to go with to wherever Jacob has set up all the light. If that's back in the cabin where we were, then that's fine.
I think not. I think that when the two of you were out here talking for a while, Jacob moved over to what was once a tennis court. And it's been stripped of any sort of the paraphernalia for that sport, but it does have large rusted chain link all around it except for one side that's open. So it's sort of a box. And on it are pictures and letters that have been aged horribly with time. But they've covered this entire area with old portraits, framed pictures of families, found letters to loved ones, desperate cries that are scribbled out, where are you? We love you, we can't find you. All of it is spread in this sort of mural across this place. It's a memorial of sorts that's been erected here of a world that's now very much dead. And some of your people spend time here just staring at the pictures. And here, Jacob has spread out a number of candles and other large fire pots that have been brought in by others that Jacob has directed here. Will this do, Father?
This is perfect. Thank you.
If you need anything else, I will serve.
I will let you know. Thank you, Jacob.
Strange boy leaves the two of you there.
I will bring Polly to this memorial. Look. We come here. We see and feel and hurt. We remember. We all remember. Please, please, don't forget us.
You think that's what this is?
Yes. Yes.
Forgetting?
That's a part. We're still here. We're still here. Enough. Do you know how long I've been like this? And I'm here. I need Achira. I need to see her. But not until you and me
Achira.
I hope. Yes. But first, you and me together.
Polly, you didn't hear the footsteps in the snow next to you, but you feel a hand take yours and just gently hold it.
Quickly darts her head over.
Zippy is lovingly holding your hand in both of hers, looking at you with empty, dead eyes. You can't hear her, but if you're looking at her, you watch her ragged lips move. And a tear rolls down her large, glassy eyes.
Come. Eat. If Polly allows it, I will guide her back to where I would have a table and that meal set up for her and for Spike.
Others are there, and Polly, you see that there are two women that are also alive. They're dressed very plainly, and they're bundled up against the cold, and they're pale, and they have sort of drab, lifeless hair, much like Jacob's, but not white, just drained. drained of any sort of vibrancy. They seem very muted, but they look at Lampwick with love. And they have been placing this table together for both of you. There are 2 places here, and there are small dishes, very modest, of food.
Polly will sit down, stare at her food for a moment, and then look. Is the place besides or across that Lampwick would be sitting at?
I will say that they're both across from each other so that you can face one another.
You're not getting to Achira.
Is she okay?
I don't know. But if she is, you're not going to fuck with her again.
More later. You're tired? I never did. Eat.
Slowly, and then ravenously begins to eat.
You almost make yourself sick. Lampwick, you have a strange relationship to time now. There are moments where you are staring off and everything seems to freeze, suspended in a molecule of time that causes you to lose yourself. So it's a strange thing, but you've learned, as best as you can, to use the stars in the sky to keep track of how long things take. And to the best of your knowledge, Polly was unconscious for at least 2 weeks. You and your people cared for her. Your people fed her and cleaned her and kept her safe long enough for her to wake back up. But time has passed.
As I sit across from her and she begins to eat, a time kind of, a vacuum kind of sucks me in. I just think back to all I see is a face, and I'm trying to remember every nook and cranny of it so that I don't forget. And then that face changes to another one, and it's like I'm scanning in my mind, trying to remember every nook and cranny so that I don't forget. However long that takes.
You finish your meal, Polly, And he's doing it again. Staring off through you. It's like he's frozen. The others begin to clean things around you, pick away used plates, and they very, very carefully and respectfully work their way around Lampwick.
As Lampwick fades into this, Polly stares at him for a moment, and then, as carefully as possible, tries to ease her way up from the chair. Back away. And then run for it.
Pull yourself back from the chair, and as soon as you do, I would like for you to make a dodge roll.
Absolutely. Well, that's good actually. Okay, so that is a 27. I have a 32 to my dodge, so I am going to spend 2 of my own to make that 3 degrees of success.
All right, so with 3 degrees of success, you do manage to slip past the hand that reaches out towards you. It's Zippy in the back of the room. You cannot hear, but you see her mouth moving somewhat desperately and sadly as she reaches for you. The 2 women and the young boy across the room turn and look at you, but they don't move. They just stand there motionless as you move towards the door.
I stare at Zippy. Then I hold out both of my hands.
She reaches out and places both of her hands in yours.
Come on.
She follows after you as you walk towards the door and open it, and cold air and snow blows in. Lampwick, you still do not move. You can't put the face back together. It's slipping past you. The memory that you're fighting with, it seems so close, but like a thorn beneath your skin. You can't see it, you can only feel it. And you know you would never forget it, but you can't call it to mind. Polly, you open the door, and there's darkness, and hundreds of the dead blocking you in. They stand there motionless, staring.
I press closer to Zippy, and I try to push through them.
You start moving forward. You feel Spike next to you. Lampwick. It comes to you.
Am I here again?
You're here. Memory intact. The face is whole. You see it clearly in your mind's eye.
I'm looking for Polly.
Not in the seat. Time has passed. You don't know how much. And then you see the door and you don't feel the cold, but you notice the snow across the table.
Is the door open?
It is.
I need your help! I need your help. Don't leave. Don't leave me.
Are you still pushing through?
I can't hear that.
You can't hear it at all. You're going through the dead. You feel their bodies near you as you're moving forward. You're watching, though. Something's different. Dead are agitated and moving differently than they were. They were just standing there. You hear nothing, just the oppressive silence around you as you press through the cold. Dragging Zippy behind still?
Yeah, dragging Zippy, I keep trying to go.
They're moving. One by one, they jolt. You watch as their eyes start darting differently. Do you continue to yell in the cabin?
I move up.
You do not see her any longer. You just see the sea of your people standing. The swarm has gathered around. Unbeknownst to you, they're here now, standing.
Can I gather that Polly has left through them?
That there's nowhere else for her to have gone. You have your people here with you, and they look to you. You feel hands on your back. You hear Jacob. She left, Father. She left. We are still here. We still love you. We will protect you.
I turn to Jacob and I lean down and I look him in the eyes and I get very close. And I say, who left?
No one, Father. Sit back down. You aren't well. We'll take care of you. And you're pressed into the seat. And the women move forth and bring a new plate before you.
They set it in front of me. I look at the plate and I look at this chair across from me and at the door. And then I eat.
You begin eating the meat in front of you, raw and bleeding. Ribs of your previous kill. You can taste his fear, you see his face, you hear his cries, and you can see his pain as you eat the flesh. Polly, you're pushing your way through. Do you go all the way to the forest?
If I make it through, yeah.
The dead behind you now are beginning to turn as you and Zippy stumble into the dark woods at the edge of this encampment. The firelight is far behind you. All you have is the moon and the stars around you. You're still weak, and Zippy is close. Spike runs out before you, scouring every step before you make it. Runs back to you, and then forward again, trying to guide you. Do you follow Spike?
Yeah.
You go out into the cold. You do have a coat, but nothing else. The Romero behind you walks after slowing down, and then stops and looks back. Back to the encampment, and then looks to you.
No, we gotta go.
Zippy turns and starts walking back to where she came from.
I reach to my hip out of instinct. And there's nothing there.
You have no weapons. There are the bags that have been left untouched on Spike. The saddlebags that Dial-Up had made for them, but you're not sure what's in them. Zippy continues to stumble through the snow and is getting further and further away as you watch. And you don't hear it, because you can't. So it's strange when you watch the gunshot barrel through her head, causing her to drop to the ground as black ichor fills the snow and laser sights work their way through the woods. Achira. Who do you gather to take with you out into the world? Where do you go? Do you search out Dial-Up and Polly?
Yeah, that's definitely what ends up happening. The Cammy, most definitely, opens an invitation to Faith, whether or not she decides to take it. Blossom, Bebe, and TV.
Currently, Blossom, Bebe, and TV are with DT. You got the jacket to get
DT
them.
and Sugar.
So they come back from their short expedition to close off Southgate, right?
And I'm actually going to give DT one of the spares that hasn't been worked over. The jacket that is more custom ends up at the bottom of my backpack.
All right.
For me to wear later.
So you give another jacket over to DT, and DT is very thankful and puts it on. It's a little big, but she seems very, very pleased with it. And she's spinning in circles in front of her dead sister, showing it off, almost like a giddy child on Christmas Day. The others are somewhat fond of DT now, the other wildlings that you've helped to train up. TV looks at you. Still no word from Paulie.
Well, it's time to go looking then.
Yeah.
We'll start in that hallway and then work from there.
You start making your way down, back tracking towards where you saw them last. I'd like for you to make a search check. Meanwhile, Faith, what are you doing?
I think in the amount of time that has passed, it's been a few hours or days now. I think I would have sent people trying to track the people who went missing. I think I would have tried to find any clues from Declan's quarters about any notes, anything about the plan or what was going on with that tower.
The
Just
radio
research.
shack was the quarters for Arlo, Declan, and many of the others that you've come to know as the techies. This was where they had their bunks. They worked and lived here. It was a electrical laboratory and also their home, and now it's in rubble. So if you'd like to search here, you can make another search check. I do want to give you 3 black dice of difficulty to really find anything of value after the fire and explosion ruined most everything. Achira, how did you do on your search check?
Well, utilizing my recon gear
Yes.
with the search, then I got 1 degree of success.
Do you want to write out the single degree of success? You still have communal competency, which will carry over to additional sessions should you choose to not use them. But I will remind you that you won't be able to swap over survival points or anything like that until you are out of competency.
Fair enough. Okay, well, I want to find everything that there is to find. So I'll do 1 of mine, 3 of communal to do 5 degrees of success for for this search for Polly and yeah.
That's an amazing success then. You're going to spend 3 of the communal points. Again, with that high of a success, as you start to enter into these hallways, a story starts to unfurl before you. And it is somewhat terrifying. The first thing that you notice is that the corridors have been cleaned. There aren't things here that were here before. The boxes that were stacked in front of that cafe, the break room that Dial-Up was afraid to enter into, are gone. The door is wide open. There is a smear of blood on the floor, but no bodies. It looks like a lot of blood.
I keep searching.
You enter into the break room, or do you continue down the corridor further?
What the... Are there any tracks or anything to...
There are no tracks here.
I go into the break room.
You do have others with you. Just to remind you, you've got the ferals with you, so others are kind of like keeping an eye on your back and making sure that things in front of you are not jumping out of the shadows. But it is dark here, and how are you illuminating this space?
I do have a flashlight.
Okay. So you're using your repaired flashlight with a makeshift battery. It is powerful, but at times unreliable, and the more that you use it, the more that you risk depleting that battery. However, you turn it on, and you start to scan across the interior of the break room. You see the bright color graffiti that Dial-Up is known for. It seems to be her signature. Clearly, she took some ownership over this place, and there are boxes and crates that are empty, that are scattered about the space. And with 5 degrees of success, others would have missed this. In fact, no one else in your group does see this. However, there are marks on the floor in the broken linoleum where the refrigerator is. Someone has put it back into place.
I move it.
You step forward and put your hands on the enormous refrigerator, and TV grabs your shoulder. Let's do this together, just in case.
Yeah, sorry, guess I'm a little frantic right now.
That's okay. I like to rush too, but you taught me to be careful.
I did. I need to start listening to myself.
Yeah, you better. And so you and the others kind of examine the fridge. There's nothing on it, thankfully. And you pull it back. And there's a passageway leading off into the wall.
Okay, everyone, this does not look good. And in particular, Dial-Up was hiding something from all of us, which I hate even more. Be extremely alert and have your weapons ready.
You and your group start moving through the tunnel.
Make sure you don't hit Polly if she's in here.
And as you proceed down the dark tunnel, Faith, how did your search go?
I got 3 degrees of failure, so I'm going to use the rest of my competency points. That's 4, and then also take 2 from the communal
Okay.
to make that 3 degrees of success.
So you're going to use 2 of the communal and 4 of your own, which brings you back to, 3 degrees of success?
Yeah.
You don't find much, but you find a section of cabinets that had clearly hidden boxes behind them, things that they were trying to keep out of sight. And inside of them are burnt and broken remains of what look like the same speaker systems that were on the back of your attackers. The intruders that were garbed like the silent sentinels. You're not positive. You would need to have somebody who was a little more mechanically adept take a look at them, but they all seem to match.
Well, I guess we found who our attackers are, technically. I take the box with me, and I head to my office.
Okay, so you take that with you and you start heading to your office. And you walk back. You open the door and there's still a dead body in there.
This is fine. This is fine. I kind of just kick it to the side for now. I have that like secret panic room in there. I store the box back there. And I want to see if that tape is still there that Betamax gave me many, many months ago.
All right. So you put down the box on your desk, kicking this body to the side. This false silent sentinel slumps over and is very dead. Shot through the head, by the way, so you know that it's not going to rise. But when you put the box down and you start moving through your other things, it looks like someone's been shuffling through your private material, pushing through your desk and trying to open things, pry things open. Did you have anything sensitive on the top level of any of your cabinets or your drawers?
No, I think I would have stored really important things in that secret room they have in the back, as well as false panels.
Okay. And you had that video, and were just about to play it before you got attacked.
Yeah, so that was out. Mm-hmm.
So you move over to the VHS player and the broken TV, and it's been, piecemealed together multiple times. The screen is cracked, but it works. And you look around the dark room. You find the small battery-operated power source that you've kept for some time. Ironically enough, Declan gave it to you to be used in emergencies when the generator power is dead. So without the generators functioning, you attach and wire this up the way that you were shown. And there's white static that alights across the screen. And there's the blink from the VCR on the top of this card. What do you do?
I check to make sure the tape's inside. The player still.
The tape.
That it's the right one.
The tape is still there.
I hit play.
That is where we're going to end our session tonight. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week with more United States of the Dead.